We'll call this one the misinformation that is true, or the death of opinion as a thing that exists. So, as educated and intelligent folk, I'm sure you are all fans of the 1990s science fiction series Babylon 5. One thing I like about that show is that the bad guys, the ones internal to Earth government anyway, are slick and deceptive and always talk like they're just out trying to help people. They don't wear large hats that say, I'm a bad guy, and they play exactly the sort of games with language that our own political bad guys play. At one point early in the show, the Ministry of Peace, one of its agents here, creates an agency called Night Watch, which, as the show progresses, functions as a sort of political spy and police force for the state, reporting on people who protest the current Earth government, shutting down their businesses, and so on. At one early meeting where they're playing nice and trying to suck people in, they say they're just trying to protect the public from threats like disinformation, like the idea that the Hunter Biden laptop is real, from alien governments, like Russia. That's 1990s television, but always the same old game, same old games. We could learn the lessons of history by reading and study. Instead, we seem determined to relearn them by experience. So with that intro, I had the thought a few days ago that words like refugee and asylum seeker used to mean something very serious. These were people fleeing a famine or a civil war or gangs or the government, but I repeat myself, were hunting their family, and they needed a new place to live. Now, I'm told our country is flooded with newcomers to whom those words are regularly applied, and near as I can tell, for many of them, they are not fleeing such dire conditions. They just think life would be better in this country than in the country they came from. I'm certainly not opposed to someone having that belief and acting upon it, and I'm libertarian enough even that I'm open to discussing the idea that borders should be completely open and free to travel. But I'm not in favor of making that the reality by abusing language without ever having that discussion. Nor, by the way, are elected Democrats actually in favor of open borders. They are in favor of solidifying their own power. If they thought the folks coming across the border were going to make the country more Republican, they would have troops stationed every 5 feet, and the media would be writing articles about how the government was keeping us safe from terrorism and human trafficking and such. You see this language game a lot. Start with words that have large public buy-in, and incrementally change the definition of those words to bring the public around to a new position without people ever engaging the rational parts of their brain. The left rarely argues for its beliefs. It tricks people into adopting them, or compels people to engage in rituals that create the desired beliefs in their brain without argument. For another illustration of this, see misinformation. But we have to back up for a minute here and talk about expertise. So we all sense the problem here. Real expertise is a valuable thing. If you have a medical question, you ask a doctor, or a doctor friend, or, and importantly, maybe you ask someone whose opinions on this topic you found helpful before, even if their formal education ended with high school. I have a PhD in physics. Our 8-year-old daughter does not. I would suggest you bring any serious scientific inquiries to me rather than her under most circumstances. Expertise is a good thing, and just like with science, Christians have to be careful not to malign the good thing just because the word is so often abused. But the word is often abused. Clearly, a whole lot of experts just don't act like experts. Some of them seem to be not that smart. One reason I often say credentialed class instead of experts. Some of them, and I might put a guy like Fauci in this column, probably are smart, but are so politically compromised now that you can't trust them. If their politics and their expertise ever conflict, politics wins every time. Then you have totally fake experts, usually progressive activists who create institutions like the Nonpartisan Expert Center on Gas Appliances, who can then be appealed to by elected Democrats in the media when they want a nonpartisan expert who will tell them what they want to hear. The left today wants the United States to be a progressive technocracy where all the decisions about everything are made by experts. One result of this has been the death of opinion as a thing. There's only the correct position, as expressed by experts or the state, and then there's misinformation or disinformation and bigotry and all that stuff. You can't just have your own beliefs about something. Humanity has progressed past that point now. So yes, misinformation is another word whose meaning keeps changing. Before, I think, the word meant something like information that someone knows to be false, which they try to put into the public discourse and consciousness anyway. Defined in this way, elected officials and legacy media are the main producers of misinformation. But the word has changed in some bizarre ways, and for that I submit to you a Reddit ban on discussion about Biden's mental state. So it says here, our centrist has completely banned discussions about Biden's mental state. New rule, no speculating about medical conditions. I know this is going to be disappointing to many of you, but most people here are not healthcare professionals. Terms like dementia or cognitive decline are objective and serious medical designations and should not be used by anyone who is not involved in patient care of the person in question. It is no different from insisting someone has cancer with no evidence. It's no different. Well, you could talk about that for a while. It's no different from saying off-label medications work for a disease when there is no peer-reviewed evidence or regulatory approval. This falls squarely under the category of misinformation, and it is harmful to our dialogue and adds nothing to our conversation. This new rule will be part of Rule 3, which is intended to keep discussion productive. So, what I find fascinating here is that the implication seems to be that claiming that Biden has dementia or cognitive decline falls squarely under the category of misinformation, even if it is true. Why? Because you are, allegedly, not an expert in a position to make that diagnosis. Only Biden's doctor can say he has dementia. For you to make that claim is misinformation, even if it is or might be true. But isn't that just an opinion you hold? An opinion you could hold after intelligent observations of the man? You could be wrong, sure, opinions can be wrong, but it isn't misinformation.